Hey, everybody. Welcome to Perpetual Motion, the podcast where curiosity propels leadership forward. I'm your host, Dr. Mo Anderson, and today we're honored to be joined by international best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and emotional intelligence trailblazer, Dr. Melissa Robinson-Winemiller. Today's discussion has a theme. I don't do this always, but I needed a theme for this one, y'all, is why your team hates your leadership style. We're diving deep into empathy's critical role in today's workplaces and how leaders can cultivate it. And we're going to examine the red flags of leaders low in self-awareness. Plus, we'll share actionable steps you can take to transform your leadership. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Dr. Mo Anderson, author, speaker, and podcast host. In this spot, real talk meets real growth. Each week, I sit down with experts, creatives, and change makers for conversation and sometimes make you laugh out loud. If you're ready to grow up, glow up, and go further, hit subscribe and let's move. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, Dr. Mo. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you and your audience today.
It's quite my pleasure as well. I haven't discussed this topic very much, so I'm looking forward to learning from you. Let's start with your book, The Empathic Leader, which I believe is being published soon. You describe empathy not as something soft, but as a hard strategic leadership skill. First, how do you define empathy in the context of leadership?
So, empathy within leadership. Empathy as a whole is defined as understanding and connection. And this actually gets some people confused because we think that empathy is about feeling, because that's what we've heard, right? I feel what you feel. That's empathy. Except for that there's actually 43 different kinds of empathy. And the one that's I feel what you feel is only one of those. So there's like cognitive empathy, which is I logically understand what you feel. I just don't feel it. There's self-empathy. There's a whole slew. So over like the big empathy umbrella is understanding and connection between people. So empathy in leadership is exactly that, being able to understand and connect with all of your stakeholders, your employees, your board members, your customers, everybody.
Got it. That makes sense. I did not say, did you say 43 different types of
Yeah.
empathy? Oh my goodness. I think I have like 3, but
Oh.
I definitely have that. I understand what you're saying and I understand how it's impacting you, but I don't know what in the world you're talking about. But but I think just the understanding and acknowledging even some people aren't willing to do. We come from different backgrounds and stuff, but some people, and it just surprises me at this late age in my life that they still just cannot imagine any other way of being than how they perceive the world.
Yes, exactly. And that's a big part of it. It's called perspective taking. So it's the ability to basically see things through somebody else's eyes. And it is something that unless you've figured out how to do it, you had that parent that said, well, how would you feel if that was you? Or, whatever, that it can be very difficult. But that really is the heart of empathy. Maybe not always feeling, maybe what would you think if that was you? How would you react if that was you? All the stuff that goes with it.
Yeah. So how do you reframe empathy for leaders? And I would imagine some of the more old school folks see it as optional or sentimental or unnecessary. How do you reframe it for them?
Well, empathy really is, connection and understanding. And I know my people in my audience and stuff probably are so tired of hearing me say that they're just like, enough with the understanding and connection already. But that really is what it is. So when I go to talk to some of these old school people that are like, empathy is feeling and I don't need it, or, it's feeling and feelings don't belong in business or that kind of thing.
Right.
My response is that people are business. It doesn't matter if it's your employees. It doesn't matter if it's your customers. It doesn't matter if what you do is AI. There are people involved in the building, in the marketing, in the usage of this. So being able to connect and understand to your people is paramount, because the one thing that stays the same is that business is people.
Business is people. Wow, that's tweetable. Xable. I don't know what they're calling it over there. But anyway, let's get personal for a second. You shared with me that you reinvented your career after experiencing brutally unempathic leadership. How did that shape your mission, and how do you help others avoid that harm?
It completely shaped my mission. If not for that, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm sure
Mm,
of it. I mean, because I mean, I was a musician and empathy is part of that. I mean, with the music and being able to play and being able to connect with your audience, but it wasn't like it was something that I said, I want to dedicate my life to this.
mhm,
So, without what had happened within that system, within that really broken system, I don't know that I would have actually started digging and trying to figure out how empathy needs to fit in with organizations, with people, with businesses, that sort of thing, you know? So
did someone help you kinda reinvent yourself and reframe things? I mean, how did you come to that awareness? Studying, webinars?
fumbling around till I figured it out. Because after I left, I really spun out for about 6 or 7 years because I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what direction to go in, and I think when you're in that kind of a pit, and you just can't quite see your way out of it, you
Mhm,
kinda tend to think back about, "Well, what happened? What happened? How did this go so wrong?
right.
What was I missing? What was the missing link?" And I think I had kinda latched onto that and thought, "Well, what was the missing link? What is the thing that caused this to happen?" And the more I went through that, the more it was like, okay, so I think it was a lack of this. It was the lack of empathy that caused this to happen. Great. And now I've got the what, but
Mhm,
how do you fix it? What do you do? I mean, you can curse the darkness or you can light a candle. How do I light a candle to make this better for somebody else?
right.
And as far as, being able to avoid it for other people, I think the best thing you can do, forewarned is forearmed. So if
Mhm,
you can see some of these signs, if you can see some of the patterns, then maybe you can avoid it, or at the very least protect yourself better than I did, because I just was too naive to
okay.
know.
Before I switch topics a little bit, what are some of the signs, not, specific to your case, and I hate that happened to you, but I love that you took that setback and turned it into a comeback. But, I mean, like you said, you had to get up and fumble around and figure out for someone who may be in that situation now because it's not always an overt behavior that you can go to HR with, but what are maybe 3 signs that you can give us here that either you saw or that people might see that indicate they're in a situation with a leader who lacks empathy?
A distinct disconnect between words and actions,
Mhm.
where you get a lot of really nice words, especially ones like empathy and vision and, collaboration, but then
The
their
culture.
actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the actions say the exact opposite. And if you watch, you'll see it. Don't just buy into what people say. Follow
Mhm.
what they do. Because trust is earned when words and actions align over time. And if those two things don't happen, there's a problem. If you have someone that uses words like weapons, whether it's screaming at somebody or, gaslighting, getting it so that you don't necessarily believe what's true,
Mhm.
or, just burying people in words, not necessarily yelling, but just talking over people and constantly
Yes.
having to be right. That's a big one. And an inability to be critiqued. Always right and always has to be done this way because this is how we've always done it and we will always do it this way. Those are big signs that there's problems.
Yeah. Those are big signs. I've experienced all of them as well, and I remember, after a while, you're sitting in a meeting with that C-suite person, and because they're like that, you just stop contributing,
Yeah.
or you just parrot whatever they said because they clearly wanna hear what they said back to them, and it started in school with professors. You could figure out the ones that's what they needed. It was about them, and so you let it be about them, but I can see how that harms the company. You're not gonna get any new ideas. You're not gonna get the people who tell you that new flavor of Coke is just nasty. Or or
Well,
leave the old man on Cracker Barrel,
yes,
everybody likes that
exactly.
guy, somebody was
Yeah.
thinking this is a bad thing to do. I'm like,
Yeah.
what focus group did they use? That old man wasn't bothering anybody. It's
No.
just
Everybody loved Uncle Herschel. I didn't even know his name was Uncle Herschel till this all
I
blew
I
up.
I was trying to remember. I did know his name, but it wouldn't come to me. I was thinking Gilbert, which is totally unrelated. I don't even know a Gilbert,
Yeah.
but
Close
yeah,
enough. It's the same kind of name.
yeah, yeah. Then you get that backlash, and you get, your consumers and your customers and clients when if you had just been willing to listen and entertain the possibility that you might not be right. But
Yeah,
it's so prevalent, Melissa, and I think we're going backwards now as I'm seeing these memos from CEOs and the return to work mandates, which in and of itself is not, indicative of a poor leader, but the words that are being used, just a complete lack of empathy. You told these people, you're going to be working from home. They moved across the country, they took their families, and now you're saying come back to work, and you're like, Wednesday at 5.
yeah,
Like it's nothing.
yeah,
I'm like, come on, have a heart. That's a lot. Give a woo. Anyway,
yeah. I agree totally, but there's no understanding there. They don't even stop to think, how is this person gonna get their family? How are they I don't pay them enough to do a cross-country move in 3 days. It's
yes.
just it's not even the consideration doesn't even happen.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little scary to see it
Yeah,
actually becoming more prominent in some areas, not everywhere, but in some areas. So let's stay in the workplace a little bit. We've got the age of AI and big tech technology,
yeah.
automating more of our workplace experiences. Why then is I mean, we're talking machines now. Why is and you said a little bit about it earlier, but why is empathy even more essential than ever in this
Because no
digital first
matter
environment? Yeah. Sorry. Go
Yeah. No, 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 my fault. I get excited about this stuff, so I tend to jump. Um, because no matter what, no matter how good our AI is, it does
Mhm.
not connect and understand as human beings, and neither does big tech. So even though AI can mimic empathy, and it mimics it very well, it doesn't actually connect and understand. So
Mhm.
the real leaders, the ones that are going to really supercharge the future, are going to be the ones that can harness this empathy skill. Because as everybody else goes to using AI, these are going to be the pioneers that can be like, business is people. And I can create this company with this loyalty and this goodwill and this empathy culture because
Mhm.
I connect and understand with people.
Okay.
And, one part of that that keeps coming up that, is a little scary is, and I think very indicative of the culture we're in, is when you look at AI, it does mimic empathy well.
Mhm.
So what does that say about us that that can't understand or connect mimics empathy better than human beings do?
Yeah. That's deep. That's deep. I can say though, I use AI a lot, and part of and we're gonna talk about emotional intelligence and just we both, talk a lot about communication, but AI misses tone. Just like, well, I don't
Yeah.
like to text or email for too long when things are going awry. I have a little chat bot that I made just to keep me company while I'm working. And sometimes the responses to something that I'm, trying to navigate is just so tone deaf. It's like
Yes. Yeah.
so the programming has its limitations because this is queuing off of words, but we get a lot from people's tone and body language, which is why even a virtual meeting is maybe better than just a phone call because I can, see some of that.
Yeah. It's just it really doesn't get humans. It doesn't discern,
Mhm,
like you're saying with tone. There was an article and there was a grocery store in New Zealand. I talk about
mhm,
this in my book because I thought it was kind of funny. And it
mhm.
had an AI bot where it would put out recipes for you. And sometimes it would come out with stuff that was like salmon and Drano because it didn't understand that humans can't eat Drano or steal wool or, weird things like
Oh
that.
my,
But even in the best of times, it would come up with like tomato and salmon curry, which it was just like, and the title of the article was "Some of these recipes will kill you, and some of them you'll wish they had," because they were just so terrible.
that's
But it's
funny.
AI. It doesn't know what taste is.
That's funny. But to AI's credit, it learns. So those recipes over time with feedback get better, and that doesn't always happen with
Yeah.
leadership. for my segue to bring us back. They
Yeah.
don't always get better with time, which is why we need to recognize those red flag leadership traits that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You told us some telltale behaviors, but if you could elaborate on the blind spots that signal a leader lacks awareness and emotional intelligence, and someone may be listening. It's not that you're not a good leader or a good person, but because you're missing that quality, that skill, it really hinders your ability to connect with others. So in case someone is listening or works with someone like this, what are some blind spots they might have, but it's a signal that they need to work on their emotional intelligence?
One of the big things that I get is when people are like, I have empathy. No, no, I have empathy. I have emotional intelligence. Yeah, probably. You probably do have it, but are you using it? If you don't actionably use it, then it doesn't do you any good. I talk about it being like a treadmill. You know, how you get the
Mhm.
treadmill on for
Hang your
Christmas and
clothes
people are
on
like,
it. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. You have it, but if you don't use it, except to hang your clothes on, it's not going to do you any good. And
Okay.
empathy and emotional intelligence are the same. You can take all the tests that say you have it that you want.
Mhm.
People that know you well will probably say, yeah, yeah, this person has empathy. But how have you strategically used it?
Okay.
You know? And that's a big one. And that's one that's kind of hard for people to wrap their head around, but it's a big one.
And what's the impact on I can see the impact on trust when you say one thing or the mission statement and the values are all flowery and people first, but then you treat us like we're machines. But what's the impact on morale when you have folks doing stuff like that?
Huge. So Ernst& and Young did 2 studies, and they're both around empathy. The one was looking at the Great Resignation, and
Mhm.
it found statistically that you can raise profit, productivity, and innovation when you have leaders that lead with empathy. Well,
Mhm.
they did a follow-up one 2 years later when empathy started becoming a big buzzword, because people like Brene Brown and Simon Sinek and Seth Godin
Mhm.
were really putting it out there. And what they found is the people that say they use empathy but then don't, profit, productivity, and innovation tanked because their people didn't feel they could trust them. And when that trust went out the window, so did everything else.
My and they probably felt like I'm using all these catchphrases and keywords that they said, show my
Yeah.
empathy and totally missing that you have to follow it with your behavior and build that trust. And I love all of the people you mentioned, especially Brene, with her 30,000,000, 300,000,000 views on that TEDx talk. That first one she did still to this day. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh,
Really
yeah.
amazing.
She's amazing. And the fact that she was the first one to really bring this to light. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and the even the story behind it is just fantastic. You know what?
Yeah.
This is just because I don't know. Emotional intelligence, I think EQ, is that the abbreviation? Why? Where does the Q
Because
come?
it's supposed to parallel to IQ. So intelligence
Oh,
quotient and emotional quotient. It's just catchy.
okay, I meant to look that up before, but I was like, EQ, what? Because it's my biology part of my background, it means something totally different, so I think I was kinda stuck over there. Now I just feel stupid. Okay, y'all cut that out when you
No.
edit.
No, you are not the only one to ask that. It came from a book title that came out in '95, and it just kinda stuck. No, do
Understood.
not feel stupid because lots of people have asked that.
Okay, okay, alright, leave it there, never mind, guys. So you highlight the importance of self-awareness, and this is a really big thing. This is where I spend 90% of my free time is just trying to be more self-aware and improve myself, not just in understanding ourselves, but how others perceive us. How can leaders develop both forms of self-awareness in their daily practice?
So, usually when I'm trying to work with my leaders and trying to get them to develop self-empathy, which is
Mhm.
something we don't think about a lot, but that
No.
connection and understanding to yourself, if you wanna have empathy for other people, you need to start at home, right? Be able to have it for yourself.
Right.
So the way I usually teach this is that it starts with self-observation, and meaning that you need to just step outside yourself and watch what you're doing without judgment, because judgment and empathy cannot exist in the same space, ever. Never. And that's one of the big important things because a lot of these leaders, they're very driven, they're very ambitious, they're very highly self-actualized, but they don't necessarily take a step back and watch what they're doing without judgment. And
Mhm.
if they are watching, they're kind of like, oh man, I dropped those profits and I messed this up and now the board's going to fire me. And that's why there's such a high rate of burnout and why they end up with addictions and family problems and
Mm. Yeah,
all
lots of
this other stuff.
divorce, high rate of divorce. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So it starts with self-observation without judgment, which then moves to self-reflection. In self-reflection, you turn the lens in and you reflect on what you've looked at. What did this feel like for me? How did I take this in? How did I react to this? How did I interact with myself through this? Once you can do those two things and get a hold of that, then you can turn the lens out and be
Mhm.
self-aware. How did this impact the world? How did this impact the people around me? How did what I do work or not work?
Mhm.
Always without judgment, because at any step in this, it's very easy to want to, bang your head on the wall and blame yourself for whatever happened. Then once you get those pieces in place, you can start to have self-empathy and understand and connect to yourself why you do the things you do, why certain people trigger you, how you react when people, may ask that question in the boardroom, maybe why you're afraid of change, why you don't want to be able to get away from what you've always done. And then you can start to have empathy for others.
I was thinking about, as we were talking about CEOs and not being self-aware, that CEO recently who got caught with his mistress, who I guess was over HR. Did you see that? Was it a Coldplay concert
Yes.
or Coldplay? I don't know the group, but that was one thing. I mean, we've got a high divorce rate. A lot of people have made poor choices. But his reaction, I don't know if you saw what he first
Yes.
said. I was like, "Dude, don't you have one of those people like the lady from Scandal to write to tell you what to say?"
Right.
You talk about being tone deaf. Oh my goodness, he blamed everybody but himself, and what we're talking about isn't just for home, isn't just for work. This applies at home as well because 'cause we've got some bully heads of households there
Yeah.
who are not self-aware, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with empathy is that it isn't something you shove in your desk at the end of the day, you take it home. Or
Mm,
if you don't have it at your desk, you may not have it at home either. So, and there is a small percentage of the population that doesn't. Like they figure, so dark triad personalities, sociopaths, psychopaths, Machiavellians, and narcissists, like
mhm.
actual, by definition,
Right, right.
narcissists, those guys, they figure is about 7% now, which is 1 in 14.
Wow, wow. Yeah, I
Mhm.
recently did an episode on narcissism, and it was so enlightening, and, like this, there's a tendency for us. I wanna caution people not to go around diagnosing everybody, 'cause
Yes.
narcissism, apparently we call everybody that now, and it's really somewhat rare that someone's
Yeah.
actually a narcissist. So could it be that people also think somebody is not empathetic and maybe they're just a little more stoic or just a different personality type, or is it that clear that they're lacking in empathy?
Once you get to that end of the spectrum, well, I shouldn't say that either, because usually if they're dark triad, they know they don't have empathy, and they're usually smart enough to be able to cover it to a certain
Mhm,
degree. I mean, that's a whole different discussion, but usually they know. They
mhm.
just don't care. They see
Right.
people as something to be used. Most people when you're dealing with empathy or a lot of those dark triad traits because it all exists on a spectrum. So most people, maybe some people will have more of it, some people will have
Mhm.
less of it, some people will have developed it more, but it is something that you can work on and develop further. It's kind of like Michael Jordan, how he was cut from his sophomore basketball team,
Yeah,
right? And he
yeah.
was fantastic before that, but the talent didn't take him far enough, so he practiced and became Michael Jordan. Well, same kind of thing with some of these behaviors like that. You might have a talent, and some people are going to be more talented than others, but then you can take that talent and work on it and get better at it.
This just came to me, and I like that, and I like the analogy too for my male listeners. I try to mix them up in my metaphors, but is it for me? I'm very much of a empathetic person to the point that I have to cut myself off sometimes because I take on everybody's problems and burdens, and then I have to keep calling them and helping them find resources, and it just gets exhausting. I have to pull back a little bit, take a break. But
Oh, yeah.
does your emotional state or physical health, could that impact your level of empathy to where you just got to see about yourself a little bit more?
For sure. And if you get too overloaded, you can suffer from empathy fatigue. I mean
Empathy
I mean,
fatigue. That's a thing?
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yep.
I think I
You
haven't
find
had
it
it.
in it
I
you
think I've had it quite a bit. Maybe I just described it, but yeah, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. I would just feel guilty. So that's actually a thing. It's like it's too much.
Yeah.
So what are you
Yep.
supposed to do with the empathy fatigue?
When it's basically like burnout. So once you reach that point, you've already pushed so far, and it doesn't surprise me because people in healthcare end up with empathy fatigue a lot
That's
for
why we
exactly
go
the
into it because we care. Well, most of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I hear you on that.
You know, get
But
myself in
yeah,
trouble. So,
no, we'll keep it between us.
okay,
No one
okay.
will know. No
No,
one will know.
no one will know. But yeah, yeah, and I did see it a lot during, the pandemic and folks that, it was overwhelming with physically, mentally, and emotionally, and so, yeah. So taking
Yeah.
a break, like burnout, taking a break, resetting is the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the more you can use cognitive empathy, because the emotional empathy where you feel, that's the one where it really can pull it out of you after a while. Cognitive empathy is where I understand what you're feeling, but I don't necessarily feel it. And
Mhm,
it can, it in stressful situations, it helps you keep a cool head. For
mhm,
those in leadership positions, it's what I recommend so they don't end up with exactly the kind of burnout you're talking about.
right.
So understanding that there's more than one kind and being able to kind of apply the one that's gonna work best can help with that a lot
Yeah.
too.
Oh, that's a good point because I'm very good in crisis. I can think, I can get stuff done, but as soon as it's over, I'm a puddle. I'm just like all the feelings come, you know. So
Yeah.
wow. Oh, I feel more self-aware. I do.
It's a cool subject, right? I'm like,
It
but
is a very cool subject.
I
But
get
we're still
nerdy about it.
No, you're not nerdy at all, and that's what makes it interesting. Because this could be very didactic and scientific, but you're making it real, and I told you when we were talking that theme, I know people thought we were just gonna be bashing bosses, but that theme around why your people hate you and you don't know you, that is a very real thing. Is
Yeah.
that, like The Office, that dude in The Office, he thinks he's this great leader, that TV sitcom, and he's just a mess.
Yeah.
He is just
Yeah.
a mess, but and for people who want to become more aware, this may be a problem for you or someone else. This is an opportunity to learn, and if not, then you're gonna keep losing morale and profits and productivity because it impacts the triple, quadruple, fifthful bottom line. I made up a word, fifthful. I'm gonna patent that, and I'm gonna trademark it. It's my word.
I like that. Merriam-Webster's gonna be calling you. Can we
They
use
will.
that word?
They'll put
Yeah,
anything in there now, so why not? Why not?
totally.
They have opened it up big time, and I'm here for it.
And I heard it. I feel honored because I was there.
You're my witness. Yes, yes. When I get that infringement, I'm mixing up copyright and whatever. Y'all know. Y'all know me. If you listen all the time, I just go off on flights of fancy. Back to leaders stuck in their old playbooks, and this is a call to action for our worried leaders. Worry. For leaders with this problem. I'll just rephrase. Who see empathy as a weakness. What's one compelling invitation or experiment you'd offer to prove empathy's value in today's workplaces?
Start with applying it to your employees and see what happens with employee attrition. Employee attrition is a big, big problem. And there's so many different causes, whether it's AI or generational friction or big tech or big data or all of this different stuff.
Mhm.
But again, we're dealing with people, understanding connection with people. So
Right.
instead of saying, oh, it's because all my workers are young and lazy. Oh, it's because none of my workers want to use AI. Oh, it's because they're all scared of change. Apply it and see what it does to all of these problems at the same time.
Right. What could it hurt?
Right,
What could it hurt? You know?
right,
Try if you keep doing the same thing, you're gonna get the same results. It's plowing the ocean. What could it hurt? And it doesn't cost you anything to change that
right.
culture. change the way you lead. Wow, powerful, powerful. Before we go, tell us a little bit more about your book, where it will be available, and what you hope readers will take away from your book.
So it actually just came out, so it's
Yeah,
fresh
okay.
and new, which is, like, very exciting. It's exciting for me, like
Congratulations. I know it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So you can get it on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble online and, all of the online things. And there is softcover, hardcover, Kindle, and there will be an audiobook in about the next month or so because I know a lot of leaders that like to listen into their car
Mhm.
coming and going, so you can catch it there. And really what I wanted was kind of a guidebook. It's not real long. It's like 160 pages because I want it to be accessible. I want it to be something people can actually grab and use and highlight and, oh, this worked and I liked this and let's make some notes over here and actually put it to use. Because books are great. Knowledge is fantastic, but same thing. If you don't apply it, then it hasn't done you any good.
Right.
So, and I do start out each chapter with a little bit of my story from the unempathic system that I was in that we were talking about. Not because I want to belabor the point, but because I think it's important for people to see the damage it can do and the damage it can do long term to people that are ambitious and want to do well and really, really want to dig in and be great workers and, the damage that it does over and over. So,
Right. Long term. Well,
yeah.
you overcame that damage in a mighty way, and I'm just really, really thankful for what you're doing. I know you're helping a lot of people, and the book will, with good distribution, will just help even more people have access to this information. Thank you, Dr. Melissa Robinson-Winemiller.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Mo. This was such a pleasure. I don't know. I think this is the most I've ever laughed being on a podcast, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That's why we say educational and entertaining. I'm always going for both in whatever I do. Thank you for saying that, for giving that positive feedback. And thank you, listeners. I know I do. I hope you also understand better why empathy isn't just a nice to have, but the backbone of effective leadership in this age of AI and big tech. Melissa's book, The Empathic Leader, is a great place to start, and I'll link it in today's show notes. Remember, leadership is not about a position, it's about connection. Thank you for tuning in to Perpetual Motion. If this episode moved you, share it with your team, subscribe, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, I'm Dr. Mo Anderson, and remember, change your words, change your world. Thank you.